76 station, and there's already people looking at it. I see it all the time, so it's nothing new to me, but this is the kind of thing that's happening to me now. And it comes to maybe a couple of 100 feet above the 76 station. And they're like, look at that. I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm like, wave at it, And I wave at it, and it starts going back up. And I go into the store, and I come back out, and they're like, look, it's still there. It's getting ready to go into the clouds. And sure enough, man, I look up, and it's just going back up into the clouds and disappears.
No, you're lucky. You're lucky. You're lucky you didn't get abducted yourself. I mean, there's been cases, where people have been abducted. I mean, one of my guests I've had on was a patient of Dr. Roger Lear, and he had an implant in him, which Dr. Lear removed. And then you got Whitney and all these other people have had implants put in them from abductions. You are really brave going out there. Again, I'm going to stress this, without no type of weapon. I mean, and I
don't know what good it would do.
Yeah,
I don't. I'm not going to be able to shoot that light.
Well, it's a security blanket, if nothing else. Like when you're a kid, right, and you heard that noise, that bump in the night, what did you used to do? You used to pull a blanket over your head at least. So I would think a gun would be at least a little bit of protection on that. I mean, there's so many.
But the ancients, Sasquatch, who are interdimensional, and they could be right next to you, and you're not going to know they're there. They more than likely are, and I've had them walk up right in front of my therm. I mean, inches away from my window that I'm panning around with my therm, and one walks right up in front of the window in front of me, smiles, turns to its side, and leaves the screen. Now, you cannot see any heat signature, but when it got up so close, you could watch it smile at me and my son. We actually watched it smile at us, turn to the side, leave the frame of the camera, and it went back, and the scene went back into the trees. Well, so these things are a lot closer than you think.
Well, again, I'm going to interrupt you because, I mean, this is a two-way conversation here, And I'm going to say this. I mean, like I had one guest who saw grays coming up to his bedroom window. He wrote a book about it. But then after that, every time he worked like in the wildlife, I think he was a wildlife ranger or whatever you call it. And every time he'd go out after that, he started seeing owls and stuff like that, the bird owls. And after talking to him about it, I kind of told him, I said, all of a sudden, all these owls you're seeing might not be really owls that could be implanted into your brain. When you could run across an alien, for example, instead of looking at them and saying, oh, my God, there's a gray, they kind of implanted, because maybe you had owls in your mind when they kind of, absorbed you or abducted you, and that's what they implanted in your mind. Now, in your case, you're out there. How do you know that when you see these big, huge Bigfoots, they could be aliens or something? That when you see them, that's what they gave off to you, that they're these creatures.
When I got hit with that sound, I don't, for some reason, I don't think that was a Bigfoot. I think that was an alien. It was definitely something you couldn't see. That I do know. And it was a sound powerful enough for you to feel, And so there's something very, very mysterious going on, and you're absolutely right. What measures can you take? I really I trust in the process of what has happened to this point, I guess. And you know, some people have become very close, I guess, with the Sasquatch in some ways. Once you line yourself up with that, a host of many other creatures will naturally, I would say, you know, kind of gravitate towards you. And some of these things are, you know, most of them are paranormal in nature. And, you know, I don't know if a gun is going to help you. I really don't. You can't shoot something you can't see, but I've had something you can't see come up and tickle the back of my neck, you know?
Oh, yeah. And, that's a weird feeling when it's nothing there and something touches you. Now, that is scary. I'll tell you that. If that isn't paranormal, I don't know what is.
Exactly. And thankfully, it was of good nature. You know, I have been around, you know, we were talking a little bit about this earlier, but I've been around situations where those marks are more malicious and with ill intent, you know. And once you start entertaining, you know, finding those things around you, you have you got some serious. You need to pay serious attention to what's going on around you because it's not good, you know. And usually those are scratches and stuff you find on you from, you know, demonic, possibly, you know, spirits. There's, you know, there's a host of things, you know, in the paranormal world that are not exactly good, you know, of good nature.
Well, a lot of things actually are not.
That are, there's another Sasquatch. I can't remember the name, but you know, they are not as peaceful as like the Xanu, you know, and I try not to use these words. I try to keep what I'm trying to teach people, you know, to Sasquatch and mountain giants. You know, I don't want to name them, you know, but because, you know, how can you know, give others races of living beings names that you don't know? I guess, you know, that happens, and many people are in touch with those paranormal beings, the Arturians or whatever, you know, and the Xanu, and there's a host of other, you know, things out there that people you know, are able to channel with, I guess, mind speak, and, you know,
I don't know. Maybe they are talking to aliens that give off that they're a Bigfoot. I'm not sure I really buy yet that, you know, the Bigfoots can communicate through mind thoughts to humans. I just, at this point, I don't buy it. From my experience and talking to some other people that actually ran into Bigfoot. And also, a little bit about my family. My daughter actually was married twice before, into two different Indian tribes, and you know, getting to know, you know, my grandkids naturally, and the members of the tribe. Talking to the medicine woman on the one tribe, you know, I asked her questions about the Bigfoot, and she actually told me a lot. It's a lot of folk lore on this. But she was telling me that, you know, going back turn of the century and beyond, you know, around the 1870s and 1860s, and even farther back than that, you know, Bigfoot would come in and kind of raid their villages, you know, carry off babies, carry off the squaws, and they weren't carrying them off just for lovemaking or taking the babies for lovemaking. They were taking them to eat. that they were cannibals. So I don't know. I mean, and I just didn't hear it from one tribe. I heard it from a second tribe too. Talking to their elders, same thing. They were talking about how they had problems going back 100 years ago and farther back. How the Bigfoot would, actually attack them and run off with the squaws and the little kids. So that makes me wonder, all these little people talking about that these Bigfoot are warm, friendly, and fuzzy and give off orbs. I don't believe it. I get a funny feeling it might be something else in the paranormal. Again, like maybe aliens that are injecting into the people's minds that they're Bigfoot or what have you. I don't know. I just can go by my experience, and my experience wasn't a friendly experience at all. Ed Roman, again, the Canadian and Canada's number one folk singer, people, that it was the same way. He did not have a friendly encounter. The thing actually chased after him and his dog.
Right. And, there's a lot of stories like that. I'm not going to sit here and try to paint a pretty picture that I'm, I do worry. I do worry where I'm going because I'm alone, and I don't, the things I'm worried about there are big kitties and bears and stuff, but like you say, there are other things going on that, aren't necessary of benevolence and kindness, I guess you could say, I don't think that, there's some of the let me about the mind speak. Okay, I have felt this physically. Okay, it's not just telepathic. Okay, I have actually felt it. Hit my head. Like I was saying earlier, like putting your hand up against a big subwoofer, a loud subwoofer. I have felt that. I have now the day I saw that giant, the mountain giant, that afternoon, I experienced mind speak again, and it felt much like an AM transistor radio on an AM station trying to hone in, and that's the way it felt in my brain. You physically feel it when they want you to know. You will feel it, and they can zap you and stuff. I've gone up there with people that are very close to the Sasquatch, and I go up there and the whole air around us, everything is just filled with electricity. There's knocks going off, around us, galore, One of my friends, when I took him there, he's like, that's the most knocks I've ever heard ever in one time in an hour.
Yeah.
And it was like, there was probably 40 knocks that went off around us, while we're sitting there talking, and I'm like, yeah, this is all going, and it's like nobody believes me, and he's like, you're going to quit worrying about that, and the people that, the Sasquatch are much like us, Gary and listeners. They are a people just like we are. They are a being that not only is symbolic, but there are spiritual ones. There are some that aren't spirit, just like us. There are I mean, if you want to look at monsters, you don't have to look any further than the human